Let's bring Reverend Bill on. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Norene. We adapted and we overcame.
Yes.
Praise God. So
we did.
Here we are.
Hey, Bill, before we start talking about episodes, chapters in your book, would you please tell us how you became the spiritual warrior?
Yes, it's been quite a journey, to say the least. And my life certainly started out in the other direction. I was a victim. I was victimized. My family was destroyed by demonic forces, and I nearly was as well. And I suffered actual physical attacks from demonic entities for many years throughout my childhood, and even suffered throughout my teen years and even into my adult years. And so I was very much hopeless, living in the fear-based, trauma-based way, complete victim, and then and lived my life on the edge. I was really seeking death. I just didn't have any desire to live anymore. Many tragedies were thrown into the mix as well that just absolutely devastated me. But one day I had an epiphany that I could do better and be better and maybe have some hope in life. And I decided, I took it to God, and I decided to just give it all to Him and make Him first in my life and accept Him into my life to guide my life and His Son, Jesus Christ. And that's when everything changed. And it wasn't an overnight change. It was 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward. But because when we suffer major trauma, we develop these patterns and habits, and again, it comes from the fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living, and it's very difficult to get out of those patterns and habits in order for transformation to take place. So once I got there, and the stronger my faith became, I felt like I was being more and more blessed and more empowered. And so once I got there, I never looked back, and I just continued to move forward. And I felt like at one point God had put a calling on my life to help others. And I very much resisted this because I thought, hey, I've just gotten free from this. There's no way I'm going to go back into this and be exposed to this evil again. No way. So I very much resisted the calling, and I thought, God must have a sense of humor. How could someone like me be a help to anyone? And so I stayed in that mindset for a while, resisted the calling that God was putting on my life until I couldn't resist it any longer. I mean, it was the first thing I thought of when I woke up. It would stay with me during the day. It was the last thing I thought of when I went to bed. And for quite a few years prior, I was receiving emails and messages and calls from people from all over the world because a haunting had aired my story on September 7th, 2006, which are still showing it to this day. It's amazing. And that's what put me on the map. And so it garnered a worldwide audience. And some of these people were contacting me for help. I couldn't help them. Then I would try and refer them to other people that I thought could help them. But it was amazing because once I realized that God was really calling me to do this, I engaged in serious biblical studies, historical studies, you name it, and it took me years. But once I completed that, I had the confidence that I actually could go out there and be a service to people, God working through me. Now, I'll never forget the first family that I helped, and I believe it was in 2013. Right away, when I walked into their home, I certainly sensed the presence of evil, and they had strong demonic attachments and oppression and infestation in the home and on the property. But I knew from the moment I walked into that home what my purpose in life was. and God actually had called me to be this spiritual warrior. And I had become, shortly before I went to help this family, I had become an ordained non-denomination minister. And so I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what God had called me to do. And it's the greatest feeling, it certainly was for me, to know what my purpose in life was. And so from that moment forward, it just carried on from person to person, family to family, and here we are today. And I'm so busy, Norene, that I don't often have moments of reflection on my career. But when I do, I look back, and it is unfathomable to me that, and this is all through the power of God. I'm nothing special, and I don't claim to be. I'm just a vessel that God works through, and I praise Him for it. But to look back and see the things, the extraordinary things that God has done through me in helping others, and the sheer amount of people, not only in America, but in nearly 50 other countries around the world, it is nothing short of a miracle. And I praise God again for working such a miraculous transformation in my life, transforming me from victim to victor. So I say to people, if God would do such a thing for me, surely He will do it for anyone that is sincere, and for anyone that wants to be free from that kind of evil garbage, and really wants to have a real and authentic relationship with God, stepping out of that fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living into what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. So I've written 8 books since then, starting with my life story, Dark Force. The 6th book, I believe, was Dark Force Revisited. And so I've written many books. In between that, my most recent book is called Stranger Than Fiction 2. It's just incredible. It really is, because as you know, and maybe some of your viewers know as well, that during my just horrific journey, I made mention of tragedies, and 2 tragedies occurred that really changed my life for the worse at that time. And that was the sudden passings of my grandmother, Dora Harvey, and then 2 months and 2 days later, my mother, Patricia Bean. My grandmother died at 64 from a sudden series of heart attacks. Then my mother died at the age of 44 from a cerebral hemorrhage. And these were the 2 closest people to me in my life, and they were suddenly gone. And I had to quit school in the 8th grade, and I lied about my age, and I went to work for a construction company. And here I was, a skinny, underdeveloped, malnourished kid, suddenly on a site with real hardcore men. And it was tough. It really was. It made me a tough man. And I grew up on the streets. I hung out with the worst of the worst people. Most of those people are either dead or in prison. I could have very easily have been there myself. And through it all, and I've been in many life-threatening situations through the course of my life, but through it all, God was there. God was protecting me, and He was protecting me for a reason. And the reason that He was protecting me is for what I'm doing right now. So I believe, Norene, that before I came into this world, God had really had a plan for me to be this spiritual warrior. And again, you would never ever hear me take any credit or glory for anything. I endlessly praise Him for working through me to help others.
Well, we're glad you're here. Everybody respects you. You're very well liked, and you're well known, Bill. And I can't tell you how many, when they knew you were coming on the show, how many messages I got.
Praise God. And I thank you, Norene. I thank everybody out there. I truly appreciate it. And without God in this equation, we would not be here right now.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, as everybody knows, we've done 6 shows, and I think we've covered 6 of Bill's books.
Yes.
And like I said before, you couldn't hear me, I will create a playlist of Bill Bean's shows, because every show is awesome. They're awesome, and you really need to see them. And I will be posting and advertising that playlist. Now, Bill, so tonight this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through some chapters of Bill's latest book, and Bill has provided me with images, pictures that pertain to him and his family. And so how about we start with one of the chapters that you have on Mothman and Bigfoot. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Boy, and I'll tell you, I want to thank the contributors to this book. And you and I talked off air. I could have written this myself. Both of these volumes, I've got plenty of material that I could have filled in everything myself. But I felt like in both of these books, I felt like I wanted other voices. I wanted to be other voices besides myself, fresh voices, people other than myself that were having experiences that really had some hair-raising stories to write about, and then some angelic stories as well. I have a lot of great contributors in my angel chapter, and I thank every single one of the contributors to the book, the first one and the second one. They're all fantastic. Love them dearly, and I appreciate their contributions. And as you've read, Norene, in this book, there are some really strong chapters, well-written chapters from these contributors. And the Bigfoot section, I started that off with my own personal experiences. I've had many experiences with the Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures. I stated in the book, in my opinion, and look, I don't claim to know all the answers. Nobody does. But in my opinion, I believe that these creatures are the offspring of the offspring. So when the sons of God, Satan, and a third of the angels, the B'nai Elohim, they were cast out of heaven. They came down here, and they took human women and had relations with human women and produced a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim. The Nephilim then went into the forest and the fields and had unnatural sex acts with apes and dogs and bears and wolves and you name it. And that's why, in my opinion, these Sasquatch creatures, these Bigfoot creatures, look different. They do not look the same. Some look human, some look ape-like, some look dog or wolf-like. So their appearances vary, and that's why I truly believe that. And furthermore, as I state in the book, I believe that these creatures are every bit as much supernatural as they are a mixture of angel, human, and then whatever animal that they mated with. And so this all comes down to a spiritual matter. I have had clients that have gone to their homes, and I would ask them, they were having demonic problems, and I would ask them, are they seeing UFOs? Are they having any encounters with aliens or Bigfoot? And you would be surprised at how many said yes. And I have gone into the woods on several occasions on behalf of these families and demanded that these beings leave. And believe me, Maureen, I could not do that on my own. It is the power of God working through me, because I distinctly recall on several occasions feeling a presence there as I've gone from the edge of the wood line now into the woods and following a path and seeing these stick-like structures that they create. I could feel that presence. I didn't see any of the creatures, but I sure felt them. And I also felt them leave when I took power and authority over them by the mighty power of Yahweh in Jesus' name. And more interesting things have happened where I currently live, in Maryland, over the last several years, I've had experiences where I found, first it was one large footprint, which I sent you a photo
I have
of.
it. I'm showing it to them.
Yeah, and that was right there outside my home. And then I found sets of footprints. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the print measured, I want to say 16 inches, and it was 8 inches wide.
Yeah, it's big.
I wear a size 12. At that time, I probably weighed 260 pounds. I probably weigh about 250 now, but I know I weighed every bit of 260 or more then. And I put my size 12, and I had a boot on. I put my size 12 foot beside that. And at 260 pounds, it made no impression into the ground whatsoever. So whatever that print was, that creature, whatever made that, was very, very heavy. And then I saw 3 more sets of prints that were leading into the woods. So where I photographed that first print, it was near, it was the back of my building, and something had pulled a small tree out of the ground, and you could see that it was pulled out of the ground, and it fell or was thrown on top of these auxiliary, I guess, generators, and there was an outside pool there, and I guess maybe one of those things was the to do with that, whether it's filtration or whatever it was or is. And so that's what led me over there. I was getting into my vehicle one day, and I saw this small tree laying on top of these things. It was 3 of these units. And I got back out, and I went over, and I saw the print. And I thought, wow, I know what that is. And then I went back to my truck, and I got a handsaw, and I cut the small tree into pieces and got it off of the units. And then I turned to my right, and I started looking, and I saw a trail of the prints that were going from that unit down this embankment and into the woods. And where I live at, it's surrounded, heavily wooded areas, and there are known sightings and many reports of these creatures in my area. And then another time, I was coming out to get in my vehicle, and I heard, and so when I'm coming out, I'm facing the woods, and there's a ravine, so it goes down, into this ravine into the woods, and I heard this sound like someone was down there. I heard pop and crack, these branches popping and cracking, and sounded like something very heavy was down there walking around. And then all of a sudden, this rock, it was a potato-sized rock. Something threw that rock from down there in that ravine, and I heard it go through the leaves. It must have passed through 5 leaves, and then it hit off of this concrete base. There was a light tower, and I'd say it was probably maybe 60 feet away from me, maybe less, in front of me. And the light pole had a concrete base. And the rock was a potato-sized rock that hit it and ricocheted off of it. I will never, ever forget that. And then another time, I came out, and I always come out of the side door of the building that faces the woods. That's where I park. And I found this woven, it was like these branches that were intertwined and woven together into a circle. I'd never seen anything like it before. And then I did some research, and I saw images that these creatures make these types of things. So I saw it, found it, and then another time I came out, another one of those potato-shaped rocks was laying on the bumper of my truck, and it was cut into a heart.
No way.
Yeah. So I have had many, many experiences, had experiences in childhood with them as well. And have had many experiences with them on behalf of families and people that were being demonically terrorized, and also having them involved. One family in Maryland the creatures were coming out of the wood line there, and they were going in and taking the chickens. They took all this man's chickens, and there was no trace of the chickens anywhere. So they were taking the chickens, I guess, and going back into the, wherever they were set up camp there in the woods. And I'll tell you, Norene, I believe some of them perhaps have temporary shelters under the ground in like caves and holes and stuff like that.
Oh,
I also believe, and again, I base this on experience and people like Stan Gordon, who have had many cases that would corroborate what I'm saying, that the UFO phenomenon, and this is all related, and this is why I wrote the 2 books anyway, Stranger Than Fiction, because I was connecting the dots. I strongly believe that some of these unidentified flying objects actually have these creatures on board, and there have been many reports of the creatures going in or coming out of UFOs that have landed. Furthermore, these creatures have the ability to become invisible, and they also have the ability to, and don't ask me how they do this, this is all supernatural, they also have the ability to shrink down into these balls of light like orbs.
Oh, so, no, I never heard that one.
Absolutely. So we're dealing with something that, again, you're dealing with something that comes from a lineage of angels that were in heaven with God. So put that into perspective that, when the angels come down, you better believe that they have these heavenly powers and these abilities and capabilities that humans don't have. They were privy to the some of the knowledge in heaven and some of the things that God did and how he did them. And so then they come down here, the devil and a third of the angels, they come down and they bring these secrets and technologies with them. So of course, when you have the Nephilim and then their offspring, which I believe are these Bigfoot creatures, you better believe they're going to have abilities and capabilities that far exceed mankind, that's for sure. And so we could make a whole entire show out of this, and I'm trying to be as brief as I can, but it all ties together. And the Mothman, same thing. I feel that the Mothman fits in with these creatures, but however, may actually be a fallen angel, but yet still has the tie-in to these creatures as well, to where they're all supernatural, and yes, they're physical in appearance. I have stood probably within 10 feet of a creature that I believe to be a Mothman, and that took place in 2014 after I performed an exorcism over a woman in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I went through the home. After I perform these exorcisms, I have to go through the home or the property of the building or whatever. I have to make sure that these demons are gone because they want to hide and lurk. They don't want to leave. And so as I was going through this very large home in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, I got to the attic part, and the attic was being converted into like a large master bedroom. And there was a light on in one section, but the other section to my left was dark. And I had people with me, and a young man that was with me actually saw it before I did. And he pointed over, and the entity was standing in a very dark space between a window. The window would have been to its left, and a ventilation shaft was on its right. And by the time when he pointed it out, I advanced. And so I'd say I was within 10 feet, face to face. And this being had to be at least 7 feet tall, glowing red eyes, black, and it looked like it had the Mothman type of wings, like bat wings or something on the back of it. And I had a Bible in one hand and a holy mixture in the other. And I believe the Bible was in my left hand and the holy mixture was in my right. And I said, by the mighty power of Yahweh, in his mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, I command you to depart. And I threw the mixture 3 times at it, and that thing let out a screech like I have never heard before or since, and it was so loud that it rattled the windows in the home and then departed.
Why would it be in her home? What was she involved in?
Well, when people are possessed, or even strongly oppressed, demons are going to be there. And if they feel like they have an opening or a legal right to be there, you better believe they're going to be there, because their agenda is to kill, rob, and destroy. So when I finish with these exorcisms, I have to be very thorough and go through the entire home and make sure that there are none hiding and lurking. And that's why, because that was a classic example, and it's happened other times too with demonic beings. One case that's coming to mind right now, when I was going through the home in the basement, I saw these two, they were black, and they were probably a little bigger than a basketball, and they were side by side. And I saw them, and same thing, I was binding and rebuking and commanding them to depart, and those two balls were side by side and went through the basement and right out the back door.
Wow. Now, the Mothman is supposed to be the harborer of bad luck and death.
Yeah, and Travis Shortt wrote a fantastic... Mike Supa also contributed to the Bigfoot section with a fantastic writings about a retired police officer in Whitehall, New York, that had a close encounter with a Bigfoot there. So Mike did a great job in writing that chapter. And then Travis did a fantastic job on the Mothman chapter. And he really breaks it down. And he was confirming and corroborating what I've been saying all along. And I didn't ask him to write any of that. He did that all on his own accord by his own research, that he came to the same conclusions that I did, that and that John Keel did, that the Mothman entity is evil,
mm-hmm.
and yes, a harbinger of bad things, and perhaps a contributor to bad things as well. There were reports of that entity being seen on the Silver Bridge before
mm-hmm.
its collapse. So I don't know exactly what happened. Did the entity have a hand in collapsing the bridge? Perhaps. I don't know. I can't prove it. I wasn't there. But let's just say it wouldn't surprise me. And also there were photographs of a Mothman-looking entity that was in New York City on the day of 9/11 that was photographed on one of the buildings. And so now the hotbed for these creatures seem to be in the Chicago area and the surrounding areas. I would say probably within at least perhaps a 200-mile radius of Chicago and the outer areas. And there are many reports, and current reports as well. Lon Strickler, who writes for Phantoms and Monsters, he's a regular on my Warrior Mode show. It comes on once a month. And Lon also contributed to this book and the previous book as well, and I thank him for his contribution. But he gets a lot of reports about these Mothman creatures, being in that Chicago area, and there are still reports of the Mothman in the West Virginia area as well. So these creatures are real. I feel that there are many of them. And I absolutely feel that they're evil and harbingers of bad things.
There's so many sightings of monsters. I mean, I can't even name them all. There's so many of them. But there's no bodies. There's not a lot of evidence. There's not that a couple of pictures maybe. Do you think, Bill, that maybe they're all coming from another dimension?
Yes, I do believe that. And perhaps when they die or expire or whatever happens, either they're able to step in that other dimension before it happens, or someone or something comes from that other dimension and collects the bodies and takes them out of here. And that's why you're not finding anything like that. It is entirely possible that, that's what's taking place. I can't prove it. I don't know. I haven't been there to see it. But how else would you explain a 7, 8, 9, 10-foot tall creature that weighs anywhere from 400 to 600 or 700 pounds? How does something that large, go undetected?
Absolutely.
So, and there are some, the more human ones, that seem to follow Native American customs and traditions. And this is why they build the teepees and the stick structures. And I've heard many, I haven't personally heard I've personally heard the screams. I've personally heard tree knocking and whoops. I have not heard a dialogue or dialect from them. However, I've listened to plenty of videos that I feel are credible, to where some of that dialect sounds like it's Native American. And so some of it also sounds Oriental, and then other types of languages that I couldn't begin to understand. So it's very interesting, and it's interesting that they all have different looks, and according to some of the research I've done, that the ones that look more Native American, more human, the people that write about this believe that they feel that they're tribes, that they're like part of tribes. And then you have the more aggressive, ape-like ones, or the dog, supposedly the dog man type of Bigfoot entity. They supposedly are the most aggressive and deadly. So I don't know. There is a variety of these beings, and I think there's more and more. And I think today, because of the technological advances mankind has made through things like CERN, D-Wave quantum computers, and other things, I think that it is either ripped holes between this world and either a parallel universe or something interdimensional, or it has just created these dimensional doorways to where more and more of these types of creatures are coming through, because there's a lot of reports also from Stan Gordon and Lon Strickler, people seeing these flying dragons and all these different types of creatures. I mean, New Jersey has the New Jersey Devil. Yeah. That's a flying horse-like type of combination of horse-dragon thing. Yeah. Too many people are seeing this for this to be fantasy. Mm-hmm. And so I really believe that it is increasing due to our technological advances and capabilities to perhaps open these dimensional doorways.
Now, there's talk as well. There are so many disappearances in national forests. Yosemite is one of the largest, which is 4 hours from me. But they don't talk about it. And I heard that the rangers and the people that own these, that are in charge of these national parks, don't want to talk about it. But there are many disappearances, and there's talk that they think Bigfoot are taking these people.
It's certainly possible, Norene, and I think that there are contributing factors to this. Now, again, I don't pretend to say I know all the answers, because I don't. This is my theory and speculation on it, my opinion. I think it is plausible that not only Bigfoot, but some of these other cryptids or alien beings have come on the earth and perhaps have been granted to have space for them to build maybe underground structures in the national parks and forest to be as far away from people as possible, so they would have in essence, their own districts. Yet, at the same time, perhaps, they have been granted permission, and dare I say, I don't want to be right about this, to be able to take these people and do whatever. And perhaps that's part of their agreement with the forces of darkness and the power elite on the earth who operate in the dark shadows and who exchange this kind of thing for technology. Because if we do serious studies, over the last 100 years, the technological leap that mankind has made is impossible, if you ask me. I don't know how it went from where we were to where we are so quickly with the strides and advancement that we have made. I don't believe it's naturally occurring, I'll put it to you like that. So if what I say is true, then there is some sort of outside force that is helping and aiding with the technological advancement of mankind. And if that's true, then the other side, you know, that force that is aiding with this is going to want something in return. And I do believe that there is an agreement that these beings have permission to either abduct or worse things with human beings. And so I could be wrong, but I have very strong opinions about it.
Wow. Because, you know, on occasion, they won't find the body, but they'll find their clothes folded with their shoes, and the shoes aren't even dirty. I mean, everything is clean, which is really bizarre.
Completely bizarre. And in my opinion, supernatural. Because think about this. And even a Bigfoot creature, say the creature is 9 feet tall. Say the creature, you know, suddenly snatches a person. I would think, you know, in the snatch and grab, unless the creature just broke the neck instantly of the person and there was no fight in them, but if that didn't happen, there's going to be resistance. There is going to be a shuffling of feet. There's going to be dirt kicked up. There's going to be some kind of indication that there was a disturbance there. And there's going to be blood. There's going to be a lot of stuff. And yet, in some of these cases, nothing. No trace of anything, and the clothes are just folded over, and it's like the person never had them on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really strange. Now, what about Crawley and the Boleskine house?
Yeah, that's another very powerful chapter in the book, and I credit Kev Baker, who did a fantastic job in writing that chapter. And Kev lives in Glasgow, Scotland.
He does.
And yes, and I actually had to perform a deliverance over him because he had gone to Boleskine, Crawley's, former. I don't know which. I wouldn't call it a home. I would call it a house of horrors. But Kevin, his brother, went there, and they went there to investigate. Wow. And both were taken over, and they were affected so greatly that, I praise God for working through me to have performed and freed both of them. They were both in a bad way spiritually, and it was carrying over because the mind, body, and spirit all go together. And so when a person is demonically oppressed, or possessed, it's going to bleed into the mental and the physical. And so I'm just very thankful that God worked through me to help them to be free from that, because they were both in a bad way.
Well, wasn't that... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Norene.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They had gone in and they were investigating the home and everything there, and they both told me that they felt a presence come onto them and just attach to them as they were in there. So we all have to be very careful. This goes for people that are doing ghost hunting, going out there looking for Bigfoot or UFOs. We have to be very, very careful, because the devil operates in legalities. So he could go to God and say, I have a legal right to be in this person's life because they came looking and they open the door. And so when that door opens a little crack, the devil and his demons, they'll kick it in. And then their purpose is to kill, rob, and destroy. And so that's their agenda from the beginning. And on my show this past Sunday, Derek Stroman, who is one of the co-hosts on the show, he had gone to a place near Syracuse, New York, and I had been there and performed a spiritual deliverance over this man several years ago. He's a good friend of mine named Todd Smith. Derek went there to document this. Todd has had many experiences with Bigfoot in this certain area. He has collected lots of hair samples, has documented the footprints, and has had supernatural experiences pertaining to these creatures. And Derek went there to document, and sure enough, Norene, he went there. He had a couple of experiences that he said he could not explain, and Derek is a person that wants to rationalize everything. He is not an enthusiast. He is someone that wants to document and rationalize. And during this, he said that he had a couple of experiences there that he would say was supernatural, and he could not explain them. So anyway, when he gets back home, he starts to have paranormal, supernatural experiences in his home among his family. And on the show last Sunday, in front of everybody, I performed a spiritual deliverance for him and his family in the home and the property. And he told me yesterday that he has had no further problems since, and we praise God for that. But it just goes to show you that we have to be very, very careful, because these demonic forces lay in wait, and they just wait for an opening, and when they have the opening, they're there.
Well, that house, that Boskin house, Crawley had gone there, because he was into the black magic and the occult.
Yes.
He was actually an insane man. He was insane. And he went there to do, there was a black magic experiment that he wanted to do. To see if it would work. So he started performing that black magic ritual, but he stopped and he didn't complete it. And I believe that, and they say that house is cursed.
I have no doubt that the house is cursed, the land is cursed, no doubt about it. And so again, you're talking about one of the most wicked individuals that ever lived. And he was also brought to another place that was a very wicked place, it still is to this day in New York, Untermeyer Park. And that's in Yonkers, New York. And I've been there twice. And let me tell you, Norene, it's one of the most wicked places I've ever been to in my life. And Crawley was brought there, I believe, in the late 20s, early 30s, to perform ritual, satanic, not only rituals, but really invoking the power of the devil over the land and everything. What an evil place. And that is the place where David Berkowitz and his satanic coven operated out of, Untermeyer Park. And just a horrible place.
Wow.
So it's interesting how this all ties together.
Yeah.
Samuel Untermeyer was a high-powered attorney and supposedly into Satanism, and he was responsible for bringing Crawley over to perform those satanic mass and rituals in the park.
He was for the viewers, that Boskin house did burn, but it didn't burn to the ground, and they've gotten permission to restore it.
Yeah.
And so they'll be in the process of that.
I would, the only way that I would ever go there is if I was going there as a spiritual warrior to bind and rebuke and cast out every single demon that inhibits that structure and the land and, the property and the surrounding land. I would do it then. Otherwise, I have no interest in going to any places that, reek of evil in that way unless I can do something about it by the power of God working through me.
I'd say don't go there, Bill. Don't go
Yeah,
there.
and again, that Untermeyer Park was certainly a little slice of it. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, just as soon as I entered, really actually as soon as I got out of the vehicle to walk towards it, it just was overwhelming, the evil. And ritual sacrifice took place there of animals.
Oh, God.
And it was rumored humans as well. And so very wicked and evil place.
All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of chapters in Bill's book. So, Bill, let's start. And Bill, I had sent you the information, and I separated all the videos into the topics. It took me forever. All right, so one of the chapters is on angels. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
And Bill sent me photo descriptions. And so, Bill, let's talk about the first one. It's number 1, and it's called, you have it titled Angel Above My Home in 2002.
Yeah, that was amazing. I'll tell you, Norene, I have been so blessed. Just so incredibly blessed and protected, because I've had some of the most horrific experiences imaginable and demonic attacks. Many times I felt like my life was in jeopardy, but through it all, God was always there and always had angels there. And so I have personally seen angels around me. I have seen angels around people that God has worked through me to deliver. And on this occasion, in 2002, over my home, my wife and I lived in Baltimore County at the time, and in the backyard over the home, there it was in the sky right over the home, and I took a series of pictures, and there's no mistaking it, and I could feel it as well. So it wasn't just something in the sky. I could literally feel a presence there, and I took it as confirmation from God that he had those angels over me and protecting me at all times, and I thank him and praise him for it. And another time, I was pretty much in the same location in the backyard, and I was feeding the birds. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and it was a summer day, and I'm feeding the birds, and then all of a sudden, out of the sky, this looked like it was chrome. It was like this round chrome disc, maybe 10 feet in circumference, and the middle was open. So it was like this circular disc-looking thing, came down out of the sky, and it stopped right above me, right over my head and the birds that I was feeding, and I could probably count to 2 or 3, and it went right back up. But I clearly saw it. It was amazing, and again, I took that as confirmation from God that he was pleased that I was feeding his creatures.
All right. Image 5, Angel or Ectoplasm, 1990.
Yeah, that was an interesting photo there. It was a photograph taken of a very close friend of ours, and my wife was actually in the photo as well, and I think it was to her right, this, I want to say, I certainly believe that it was some type of angelic manifestation. Ectoplasm also manifested in that way. But again, I think it was some type of angelic manifestation giving confirmation that we were being protected.
All right, and image 7. Angels 2002.
Oh, that was in, and that was probably 4 or 5 of them in the photograph, and that was taken over in Chase, Maryland. I used to go over there in the 90s, and I had these sky watches. My dear friend Lisa Stem and her husband Tommy both have since passed. They would allow me to come over there to their home and bring other people as well, and we would have these weekly sky watches over there, which we documented just a plethora of UFOs and angelic type of things as well. And Lisa actually took that photo one day. It was out over her pier and just an amazing photo.
It is.
One of many. So she was a very gifted person, very blessed, and her husband Tommy was as well. Loved them both dearly, and I'm quite certain that they are in God's heavenly kingdom as we speak.
Okay. Next chapter we're going to talk about is demons, and I have an image here. Number 2, 2 demon faces from 2001.
Yeah, and that was amazing as well, because I carried a camera during that period of time. I carried a camera with me everywhere I went because I was constantly seeing these UFOs that were over me. And there were times that I felt like they were divine and I was being protected from something, and other times, like that occasion, I felt like my life is in danger. And so I saw something, and this is bizarre because I saw something in the sky, and it was very, very low. It was in my backyard. It was nighttime. I took the photograph, and what showed up in that photo looked like a little slice of hell. It was, it looked like flames in the photograph, but within the flame, there were 3 faces. One was a large face that was protruding out of the flames that had an alien look to it. And then in the corner, there were 2 of these green faces that absolutely looked demonic. And those are the 2 faces there that you're presenting. Very bizarre photograph. Never took another photograph remotely like that before or since.
All right, image 10. Face of a demon taken by Chris Levy at the Intenzo home, November 2018. This was captured as I was binding and casting out demons in their basement. That is so bizarre. Okay, you know what I did on this one? It's so creepy that I enlarged it. So hold on, let me show them the enlarged one. All right, here's 10 enlarged.
I'll never forget it. And that was Sunday, what was that, November 18th. And Anita and Chris were having problems in the home again. And they made me aware of it. And I went up there. And I never do this. When I'm going in, I don't take photos. I don't shoot video. You know, most people don't want that. And so, yet on this occasion, I felt like God was urging me to tell Chris to walk with me and document this. And so I said that. I said, I want you this time to get your, I don't know if he had a camera or he was using his phone. I said, I just want you to, this time, document what's going on. And he and Anita walked with me. We went through the entire house. You know, I performed deliverances over both of them. We went through the entire house. We got to the basement, which is the big problem area for them in that home. And it was amazing because you could feel the presence of that demonic garbage down there. And while I'm binding and rebuking and casting out, Chris is taking photos. And at one point, and I think I may have sent this photo to you as well, there was a photo of me standing in front of this chimney, and it had this little heater thing there, like a stove fireplace type of thing or something adjacent to it, connected to it. And I'm standing there. Now, Chris, I believe, was on my left, and Anita was on my right. And I said, by the mighty power of Yahweh in his mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, I was led right over to that chimney. And I felt it was a portal there. And I'm standing there, and I'm binding and rebuking and casting out any and every demonic entity that might be there. You would not have believed the groan. It was like a combination of a moan, groan, and growl at the same time when I said this. And Chris and Anita were right there with me. They heard it. It was loud. And so this thing departed, you know, as I'm binding and rebuking from the chimney area there. I'm standing right in front of it. And the three of us heard it plain as I'm speaking right now. It was a combination of a moan, a groan, and a growl, and it departed. But Chris took a series of pictures, and during the series of photos, he captured that face. That was the most striking thing that he captured out of everything. And I'll never forget it, that's for sure. And you can clearly see it. I mean, there's no mistaking it. There was some kind of face there.
Now, it looks like that he's got like some camera equipment, or it looks like a screen of some kind. And I see some wires. And it's
well, it was captured on the ductwork, so that was connected to the furnace and all that. So that's where the face was. That's where he captured that image. It was on the ductwork, and so the ductwork is right there in the basement going up.
Oh, it's
so it was a unit right there, a heating unit, AC unit, whatever, that the face was actually on. There was another face that I had Mike Supa analyze, and I should have sent that to you because, boy, oh boy, was that ever interesting. The second face that Chris had captured had the look of a Bigfoot, like a baboon type of look, and Mike Supa analyzed that. I'll have to send that to you next time I come on. We'll go over that.
Oh, yeah, you didn't send that to me. I would have loved to have seen it. Well,
yeah,
hey, you know what?
I'll send it after the show, and the next time I come back,
you'll be on the show again.
Can't wait. But isn't that amazing, though, Norene, how he captured that and the clarity of that? And I assure you, he was right there with me, so there was no trickery or fakery or anything like that. I mean, I was right there. There's no way, not that he would anyway, because Anita and Chris are good and decent and honorable people. They're not faking anything. They don't have to fake anything. And I certainly wouldn't be a part of anything that was being fabricated or faked. Yeah. So he captured it as it was.
That's really, really disturbing, Bill. Really a disturbing photo. I've never seen anything like it. That's
just
real.
Absolutely amazing. And again, I thank God that he worked through me to get that garbage out of there. And I haven't heard from Chris and Anita lately. I've just been so busy. Usually we keep in regular contact. But I haven't heard from them in a month or so, and I need to reach back out and see how they're doing. I hope everything's peaceful with them now.
So this is in their home, not the home that she inherited. Now, she brought all that stuff from that house, all that World War II Nazi stuff. She brought. What did she do with all that Nazi stuff?
I hope that it's gone now, and I went through so much of that stuff, binding and rebuking and casting out and just eradicating all curses, hexes, vexes, and spells. It was an arduous task, to say the least. And I know that she told me that she and Chris were going to get rid of it. I haven't been back there since 2018, so I don't know. I hope that they have, because I strongly feel, and felt at the time and still feel now, that there was a lot of evil attached to those objects. A lot.
Oh, yeah, when we did the show with her, it was quite a story she had to tell. All right, so now, let's see, we've got one more under demons. Let me get rid of this one. This one is disturbing. This is the hooded demon at your home in 2000.
Yeah, I will never forget that. And again, at that point in time, I was still regularly experiencing and seeing these UFOs and then other non-human looking beings as well. And we got up, my wife and I got up one day, and I was going out the back door. It's a screen door. And then I saw this figure. It was a hooded black figure, and I was able to capture one very clear photograph. I took several shots, but that was the most clear photograph of them all, and that was at my home in Baltimore County at the time. And boy, oh boy, I mean, think about that. You're capturing something that you can feel the evil. I mean, you look at the photograph, you can feel the evil coming off of it. and that is at your home. So this was before I was a spiritual warrior. This was before I was free from all evil and strongholds and all these things. So I was very much still a victim at that point in time. However, I felt that I was perhaps intensifying it by my participation in documentation, and it really dominated my life at the time to where I was constantly documenting these things. And look, it's good to be able to verify and quantify. However, when it starts to take your life over and becomes, obsession, that is part of oppression, to where now you are reeled in and you are, in the clutches of the devil. And if not for the love and the favor and the mercy and the protection and empowerment from God saving me, I could have perished through all of that, because again, I've had so many life-threatening experiences throughout the course of my life. It's just it's really unfathomable, Norene, to if I were to sit here and list the many times that I've been in really, really, really dire straits where it could have cost me my life.
Your first attack was what, 1971? Your first demonic attack?
Yeah. I was 5 years old, and this came after my sister, who was attacked prior to me in her bed in her room. And I'll give a quick layout. We probably don't have much time left, do we?
You can have as much time as you want.
Okay. I'll give a quick layout of the house.
Okay.
The house was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac, and it had a very large and deep ravine located behind it that stretched for several miles. And and the house was semi-dilapidated. My father, William Bean Sr., was a master carpenter, and he saw it as a restoration project. And so it was very dark in the home. You would come into the living room area, and then you would make a right and go down this long hallway. And again, the dark brown paneling was on the walls, lining the walls, going down the hallway, and it had tile. It was a hard tile on the floor. And I shared the first room on the right with my brother, my younger brother. He was 1 at the time. And the next room on the right was my parents' room, and then the room across the hall, the last room on the left, was my sister's room. And that is the room and the part of the house that I felt, and looking back on it, I still feel, was the main portal in the home. And it was coming from her closet, which was adjacent to a linen closet at the end of the hallway. And so my sister was asleep in her bed one night, and something woke her from her sleep. She felt a presence. She couldn't see anyone or anything there. And she got frightened, and she was going to get out of bed and get my parents, and something grabbed her leg. And she let out a scream that woke my parents. They came in, running into the room, turned the light on. She was in a fetal position, absolutely traumatized, and there were red marks on her leg where she said something had grabbed her. So she had never felt comfortable again in the house after that. And she wasn't there for very long. She ended up running away in the middle of the night in 1973 and marrying a young man in the neighborhood. So she wasn't in the house for very long enough. And then in 1971, I had that experience at the age of 5, to where my brother's bed was closest to the window and mine was closest to the door of the hallway. And we're asleep in our beds, and something woke me from my sleep. Couldn't see anything there, but knew something was there. I too, like my sister, got frightened. I was going to get out of bed and get my parents, and I got out of bed, and then a tremendous force grabbed me by my shoulders and slammed me back down on the bed, pinning me to the bed. I felt paralyzed. And like you said in that bio, I've given well over 2,000, probably 2,500 interviews by now, who knows. But I can't relate in words how terrified I was at that time. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like my heart was jumping out of my body. Couldn't move. Wanted to scream out for my parents. My mouth wouldn't even work. The only thing that seemed to work were my eyes. And what an experience. It felt like it lasted for hours. I'm sure it was only a few minutes. And horrible things were happening. And then I saw this manifestation at the foot of my bed of this, what I believe to this day to be an angel. And it was an angelic lady, and as she manifested, all the horrible things that were happening to me suddenly stopped. And she smiled at me, gazed at me. I felt so much love and comfort and protection from this being. And the most incredible thing about it all is she looked exactly like my mother. And she turned, and to her left, it floated up through the ceiling. And then I jumped out of that bed and ran into my parents' room, woke them up. And my dad was not pleased, but my mother ended up taking me back in there and stayed with me in there until I fell asleep. But after those experiences, and I had many experiences like that throughout my childhood, the next day I would always feel like I had the flu, like my body ached terribly. I had fevers, flu-like symptoms. So I don't know if it was through the level of trauma that affected my body physically, or through those demonic forces themselves as they manifested and were literally touching me and harming me. If it was something through them that was affecting my body to where I felt like I had this illness every single time.
Wow. What about your dad? Was he attacked by demons as well?
He never said a word to any of us about it, but he did confide in my mother's mother, my grandmother, Dora Harvey. And he told her that from the beginning he was seeing manifestations. And my brother also told me a story. Now, my brother does not like to talk about this. He is still traumatized to this day from it. And he very rarely talks about it. But one time, a couple of years ago, maybe four or 5 years ago, I was over his house, and he told me a story that I never knew. I had gone to my grandmother's house. My grandmother and step-grandfather lived about a mile away. I spent a lot of time on the weekends at my grandmother's, and this was a weekend. I believe it was a Friday night, and my brother was there in the house with my mother. My sister had already gone at that point. So my dad, who was a good man, that made horrible choices and decisions, he had, by that point in time, he had become a raging alcoholic who physically abused my mother on a regular basis between 1973 and 1975. And he'd come home in a drunken stupor, and I believe it was before he departed us in 1975. And my brother said he was sitting on the couch. He saw my father come in through the front door in a drunken stupor, but he also saw something grab my father. Now, my father was a very strong man. He was like a muscular, stocky individual, very powerful, and wasn't afraid of anyone or anything. And my brother saw an invisible force grab my father, picked him up off of his feet, and threw him through the closet. So when you would come in through that front door, there was a coat closet there, and it had these two wooden sliding doors. And so when he came in through that door, my brother saw something pick him up off his feet and throw him right through those closet doors.
Oh, no.
And that was a story that I never knew about, and, he told me about it, and believe me, my brother has no reason to lie or make anything up. He doesn't even like to talk about these things. So, yes, my father was having experiences. My father was a man that was used to being in control of every situation, and he suddenly found himself in a situation that he could not control, and though he made the choice to do what he did with becoming an alcoholic, I do believe that it was his escape mechanism, literally trying to escape the reality of the situation, and I make no excuse for him. I have forgiven my father for the things that he did, and he did many horrible things. He also did many great things as well, so I love him and forgive him. But I do believe that it was his form of escaping the reality of the situation.
Wow. All right, so, Bill, can we go now on to... Let me get... Hold on for a second. All right, let me...
Sure.
Okay, now, honey, now we're going to go on to ghosts.
Okay.
All right, there's a chapter on ghosts, and you sent me this image. It's ghost children, first child is headless, and head is laying on the step. Oh, my God.
Now, isn't that an amazing photo? And when I showed that,
Yes.
I'll never forget, when I showed that to George Noory, they flew me out there to be on his Beyond Belief TV show several years back. He gasped. He couldn't believe it. He was horrified by it. That photo was taken of my uncle, Mike Zonick. And my best guess is it would probably have been the mid to late 50s. And now some people would look right away and say, oh, it's a double exposure. Well, if you look past that, you will see these two children. Now take a look at the clothes of those children. Those clothes don't match the time. They don't match the 50s. They look like they're from way, way back. Take a look at those clothes. Oh. And so you look at how my Uncle Mike's dressed.
Yeah.
You look at how they're dressed. That doesn't match. And so then it's a girl in front of him. Then the other child, you see there's no head there. And then when you look over on to the left, onto the step, you see what looks like the head on top of this copper-colored skeleton, this skull, copper. If you really look at it, it looks like a copper-colored skull with that head on top of it on the pavement there.
I'm trying to do an enlargement of this.
Yeah, and look very closely on that step, that pavement.
Yeah.
And you'll see the skull. And the head is laying on top of the skull.
Okay, so, we've shown this before, but I've never really taken a really good look at it. So there's a figure in front with no head. It looks like...
and then look to the left, on the pavement, on the stoop.
Oh, it would be to the right, my right.
Okay. And take a look at it, and see, you'll see, just focus on it, and you'll see this copper-colored skull, and the head is laying on top of that.
Well, what the... So this headless, it looks like a little boy, maybe a boy figure, because I see his jacket buttoned up. Behind him is the little girl, but there's something in front of her face. It's behind, like a cone of some kind. It's behind him, it's in front of her face, and then there's your uncle. Boy, is that bizarre.
Absolutely bizarre. And if you can zero in on the step, and I want you to see it for yourself. When George Noory saw it, he gasped. He couldn't believe what he was seeing.
I can't get
if you zero in and see that skull laying on that concrete with that head on top of it, you'll probably gasp as well.
Well, we're looking at it now, and I see you have the original. So what I see on the step, I see something black, and then there's a head on top of this black. I don't know if it's a blanket or what it is.
That's the skull. Yep.
What the heck is that black thing?
Absolutely mind-boggling. And again, Now, what's even more interesting about this, Noreen, is that I never knew that picture existed. After my mother had long passed, my sister had all of her family photographs. And it was in 2005 when my sister gave me those photographs. My wife and I were over her house, Christmas time 2005. She asked if I would like to have some of our mother's photographs. I said yes. And she gave them to me, and I got home and I started looking through them, and I couldn't believe some of the things. It wasn't just that. I mean, there were many images in there that I found that were so disturbing. And so my mother, again, who was an experiencer from childhood, she saved those images because she knew what they were, and she was, having these problems and attacks up until the time of her own death.
Okay, Bill. Those children, are they supposed to be in the picture?
Nope.
No. You mean
Nope.
It was just your uncle standing there?
Yes, and that's why I say ghost children with the
Oh
head
my
and the skull.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so creepy.
And again, look at their outfits. Their outfits do not match the time.
Well, let's see. She's got a coat on. She's got a little round collar. She must have a hat on, but I still cannot figure that weird object that's between the headless boy and in front of her face. And her hand is extended out like a little web hand. That's weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Oh, wow. What a picture. I'll put it back to normal now. What a picture that is. Holy cow. That's just too awesome.
So, that was something that I never knew existed until I had gotten those photographs in 2005, and I started looking through them. And boy, oh boy, was I ever disturbed, when I saw that photo and other photos like it.
Oh, wow. That is... Well, you've got some freaky photographs.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move on to UFOs and aliens. All right, so the first shot is with image 4, 6, and 11. So let me read 4. All right, so number 4 is UFO near my home in 2017.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so from 1995, January of 1995, into 2008, I had regular, probably daily sightings. They were around me everywhere I went. And then it seemed like in 2008, my wife and I got baptized. Really sincerely, I was making God first, and we were making God first. And so it seemed to not completely go away, but it really greatly decreased. And then it would be occasional. So that was one of the occasional shots that I got, which was in 2017. I've had sightings since then and documentation since then as well, but again, not on a regular basis. And I have had sightings being in different states as well, to where I'm going to help families. And I've had many times, objects over me that were either the disc or the triangles, you name it. But again, the difference now is God truly is, and he protected me back then, but I just didn't know it. And now I know it. And so I don't have any fear at all. I have blessed assurance that God is with me and for me. So if God's with me and for me, nothing's going to stand against me. And it is by the power of God that's keeping me alive and working through me to help people. So I have comfort in that. I don't worry about anything anymore. Back then I was panic-stricken because, especially when it first started happening, I thought, oh, why me? What is this? Who is this? Why? What do they want with me? So I lived again in the fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living for a long time until I finally built my faith so strong that I abandoned the fear and abandoned the fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living and traded that for what I call warrior mode in walking in true faith, strength, and courage. Changed my life. And I can never thank God and praise God enough for that transformation. And I understand it now, Norene. It was necessary. In order for me to be where I'm at right now and helping others, I had to go through and experience those things. So we all have a journey in life, and that was my journey, for the better and for the worse. Now it's for the better, and I praise God for it.
Absolutely. Image 6, Bill, UFO from 1996.
What was that? The triangular?
Yeah, it's a bright white light with yellow around it, and a cylinder type.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I've probably taken over 1,000 photographs since October 5th of 1995, and at one time I had 16 hours of video footage as well. My footage was featured on the 6 o'clock news, the 9 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news. I had news stations coming out on location, doing live interviews with me on these sky watches that I was having with people in the area. I've got as many as 50 people in a group with me that have seen these objects.
Wow. Okay. Oh, Bill, have you heard the latest? I don't like talking politics because the viewers don't like it, but I have to.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I should say this, but some politicians believe that these, I've seen them myself as well, and it's what I've seen was just too crazy. They all of a sudden they show up, and then they zigzag up. Then they zigzag down. Then they go back and forth, and then they shoot off. But they come back again, and they do the same thing. And I thought, that's really, how the heck can a UFO do that? So some believe that what we are seeing, maybe not all of them, are drones. What do you think of that?
Isn't that hilarious?
I don't know, but I mean, that's what they're saying.
Drones haven't been around for that long, so... we go back into history, and I mean, you could go back to the 1800s and actually even further back than that, where there's the 15th century, where there's documentation of these objects. And if you want to go further back than that, then we could go all the way back to the Bible, because what do you think led the Israelites and gave them shade by day and light by night, and threw them manna from the craft that was above them, okay? So there are 70 or more scriptures in the Bible that talks about UFOs and mentions them, and this is why I say Psalm 68:17 says the chariots of God are 20,000. UFOs are flying Merkaba craft that were created by the Creator, Yahweh, the Creator of the universe. Why does he use them? Why does he have his heavenly host use them? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But I believe that when Satan and a third of the angels were cast out of heaven, they were cast out in those flying craft, and they came down to become demonic craft. And so there are two sources there. Then, if what I say is true about the deals that were made, technology in exchange for abduction and whatever else, I don't even want to say, then you have another source, because now our governments have the technological capability to build these craft, because they're working with some of these entities. And then the fourth factor in this is that I'm quite certain, in the vastness of the universe and the creation that God made, there are other life forms out there that he created. I have no doubt about that. So perhaps they factor in as well, to where they come and visit from time to time, or perhaps are even living here under the ground or whatever. Who knows? I feel that now I've read about this, and I believe it's true, that there's been an exchange program going on for many, many years, that some of those beings come here and some of our people go there to their world, and I certainly believe it is true. So there are many factors into this, but I'll tell you this right now, and I don't have to tell you this. Number one, drones have not been around for very long. They certainly didn't exist back then. Secondly, there is no drone that I know of that would have the technological capability. We don't even have aircraft that we know of that have this type of capability to, number one, the speeds. We don't have any aircraft that can match those speeds. Secondly, the ability to zigzag in that way, disappear, reappear. Thirdly, I've seen this with my own eyes, to where these objects are going across the sky one way, and then all of a sudden they peel back like they've got reverse. I don't know of any craft that can do that.
They didn't talk about the ones from years ago. It was the recent ones that are being seen, that they believe that they're drones and that they're spying on us and whatever. Anyway, that's what I heard on the news. I completely
disagree with it. Again, just look at some of those videos and the speeds that those things are going, and the Navy videos where they're locking on the targets. Now, think about this, Norene. If they suspected for 1 second that it was some type of enemy drone or something, don't you think they'd say fire and engage and blow it to bits? I mean, there's no way they're going to let something like that operate in United States airspace. There's just no way.
You know what? I never thought about that when I heard that on the television. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, they've locked in on the object, so if they've locked in on this that they thought was a drone, they would just blow that thing to bits, and that would be the end of it.
Oh God, I guess we're never really going to know. I mean, I don't think they're going to. I don't want to talk about politics. We could, you and I could. I don't want to do it online. Not on the live show.
My opinion on this, and I could be totally wrong. Perhaps, and I talked about this earlier tonight. It's plausible that, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right about it. That they would downplay this now. It just made no sense to me, because I thought, okay, they're really playing this up now. The media is reporting this every single day. So they're preparing the people for something. And then they do this about face. But I'm thinking, okay, is this the preview, precursor to a so-called alien invasion, real or not? Do they perceive a threat out there that is going to come in and create havoc? Is that why they created a Space Force? Space Forces existed a long time, long before Donald Trump brought in a Space Force. A Space Force has been around. But for some reason now, they're acknowledging that this branch exists. So is it that they feel that there is an imminent threat, or are they going to manufacture something like other things that these people in the low places, they're in the high places, but they're in the low places. They're in the darkness and the shadows, and they operate in the shadows and come up with some of the most diabolical themes and plans. And is it possible that they are going to unleash a so-called alien invasion? Is this, now that COVID seems to be on the downside, is this the next big thing, that they're going to unleash an alien invasion on the people of planet Earth? And so it's going to be interesting to see. And there are technologies out there like Project Bluebeam that, and I've studied about this for many, many years, that can put these holographic images in the sky and other places as well. Are they going to factor in? Is this going to usher in the Antichrist? I don't know. I can only speculate on this, but what I can say to you is I have a feeling that we are on the cusp of something, and it is not good. And this is why it's very important for every person to have their real and authentic relationship with God, because you want to have God in your life when all this comes down, that's for sure.
Amen to that. Okay, now, we did 11. All right, let me go to the next one then. Okay, so UFOs and aliens again, and we have Oh gosh, okay. We have 12 and 13. 12, it says you along with others in 1969. A lion face above you, a gray alien to your left, and Bigfoot face to the left of the alien.
Yeah.
Now, what I did...
Now, I was 3 years old, Norene, and it was as if a dimensional doorway had opened at that moment. That was a Polaroid photograph taken in 1969.
Okay, you know what I did? Let me go to... I enlarged 12 because it's so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Let me lower this one and put this one up, and let me enlarge it because this one. Hold on, honey. This one's creepy as. I kept looking and looking at this.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, okay. So you're in this image.
3 years old. Yeah.
Where are you?
3-year-old boy, and so if that's the one with the faces in there, you see me right in the front. Now here's the bizarre thing. So you see the little boy with the glasses and the blue
jacket
windbreaker.
Yeah.
Now look behind that and you'll see these other humanoid entities in single file behind me.
Yes, there's 2 of them.
They're different sizes.
Yes.
So they have different looks and sizes, and one has his arm down on the left side,
yes,
the hands open, the arms down. So they're different entities. They're behind me, and then if you look to the left, which I guess would be to the left of me in the photo, you are right. Then you'll see the little gray alien standing beside me, and then to the left of him is this Bigfoot-looking face in the right in front of the bush there.
Okay, so, okay, you know what? When I first looked at this, I didn't see it. So to me now it's on the right. It looks like, and it looks like 2 horns with some weird, freaky, hairy body with a face of Bigfoot lion type thing.
Yep, and so if you look even further, it'll take you a little while. When you really start to focus in on that, you're going to see many faces in front of that bush, and they're everywhere. It was as if a dimensional doorway had opened up at that moment, and all those entities were there. And again, it was like this lion kind of face above my head. There were many different types of entities in that photograph. A Polaroid photo that was taken in 1969.
Okay, so this one really intrigues me. All right, so I didn't know. Okay, so I see you now. I didn't see you before, this little guy here. Behind you, I see, at first I thought it might have been a woman with some kind of a Victorian type dress. I see a full head of hair, but I see a hat on top. But I do see the arm hanging down, and then behind that person looks like a male, a male. And I see him. What the heck?
Just amazing. And again, this was another one of those photographs that I found in my mother's family photos when my sister had given them to me. And I looked at that, and I was, dear God, I kept focusing in on it. And I was seeing more and more. The more I looked at it, the more I saw in the photograph.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is so creepy, Bill. I can't.
1969.
Wow. Okay, so let me go back to your other one because I didn't finish. Okay, I enlarged that. That's creepy. Okay, hold on, honey. Let me go back. Okay. No. All right. Okay. So I want to go back now to 12. Okay, now 13. Let me read 13. 2 UFOs over your home in 1998.
Oh, yeah. Are those the 2 that look like, almost like they were different colors? And one almost looked like a planchet from a Ouija board, that type of shape.
Yeah.
And then the other one was above it. Yeah, again, just the most bizarre things. And it was to the point to where I almost at will could go with the camera back then you had the camcorders, the big video cameras, and I would put that on a tripod and set it up in my backyard, and they would come. it was just unbelievable. I would set it up, and more times than not, they would come, and I'm documenting these things. It was just the most bizarre thing, and it was on a daily basis.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so I have to get... Okay, so now we're going to go to 14. Okay, this one. This is the family photo in 1974. Huge face at the back door and an alien face in the wall art.
Yep.
This one is... Okay, so again, what I did was I put arrows so the viewers could pick it out, but I also enlarged it. So let me now go to the enlarged 14 image. Here we go. Can you...
And you see it there in the back door, and you know, again, look at the wall art to the left. So over my dad's shoulder, you would see the face in the back door plus the entity to the left in that wall art, and you can clearly see it. If you look in the center of the wall art, it looks like an alien face and head.
Oh yeah.
And it's got some kind of something on the forehead there, like an insignia or something.
Yes, it's like one in the middle and then two off to the side, and it has like a lizard face.
Exactly right. And so that's 1974, and interesting again. Just as I reported to you about some of my clients having, you know, cavalcade of these experiences, it was the same for us. So my mother often remarked about seeing these blue lights descending down in the ravine. She would be doing the dishes after dinner and standing at the sink and, you know, doing the dishes, and there was a window there in front of her that faced the ravine, and she would see these blue lights descending in the ravine. So again, we had the whole thing going on, and furthermore, there were sightings of Bigfoot in the area, and they called the creature the Gully Man because they called that ravine behind us the Gully, and so this Bigfoot creature that was being seen around there, they called him the Gully Man. So we had everything going on there with the, you know, the demonic garbage, the Bigfoot stuff, the UFOs, and divine intervention as well. So everything was taking place.
Yeah, well, I can see it. Wow.
And another interesting thing, Norene, that is the only photograph that I know of that was a happy family photograph in that house, 1974.
Oh, it's a nice picture. Okay, so what's next? So we did 14. Okay, so let's go to, all right, UFOs and aliens, and this is image 16 and 17, and let me read that. 16. All right, 16, a UFO, 1995. I took the shot in Baltimore, Maryland.
And which one was that? Was that the
it's a long
multicolor, like yellowish type of
an orange and yellow coppery color, and it's got all this like explosion at the bottom and this cylinder thing, fat on the going straight up. Yeah,
yep. And in the beginning, and that's where it started, 1995. As far as my documentation, October 5th, 1995 was the first photograph that I took of a UFO. And so it was just on a nightly basis or even daily. The objects were so different in shape, size, color. Never seemed to make any noise, but yet just did impossible maneuvers. And I've watched them shapeshift as well. I have seen objects that were round suddenly shift into rectangular and back. Just things that you would rub your eyes. You know, you say, am I really seeing this? Did this really just happen? Just mind-boggling stuff. I have seen on one occasion with a group of people, Lisa Stem was there as well, over at her residence in Chase, Maryland, and I want to say it was probably 1997. we were watching the sky in front of us, and it would have been the southern part of the sky. And we saw this, we were looking at the stars, and then we see this object coming in, this star-like object. It's moving. And it comes, I will never ever forget this as long as I live. This star-like object, it's blue, it's moving. It runs into what we thought was a star there. It's a stationary object that we thought was a star. It ran into it, Norene, and when it ran into it, it was a brilliant flash of blue light. When it ran into the object that we thought was a star, that object started moving, and the object that ran into it stayed in the place, stationary. I will never, ever forget that.
Wow. Okay, so 17 now. This is, okay, UFO in 2001. I took the shot in Reisterstown, Maryland, and that's the cylinder.
Oh, yeah.
That's the cylinder.
Yeah. And again, that's another amazing thing, because you got to think, I was carrying a camera with me everywhere I went, but to be able to capture something like that at the precise moment, you know, these things are moving very quickly, and to capture it that way, to see it, and then to capture it, and there was no smear or anything like that from motion. I mean, I captured it as I saw it, and to have that intact and to have a clear picture of something like that is just absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a rod. I think they call them rods.
Yeah.
All right, so one last one. You've been so lucky to see all this.
Just as part of the journey, and I look back on it and I understand it now. I had to, God needed me to be able to experience all these things, to be where I'm at now and helping others, because they can trust me, because they know that I've been there. So there is nothing that they can tell me that would shock me, or I could say, oh, I can't relate to that. They know I've been there, so they can trust me, and they'll let their guard down, because when people have been traumatized, they have a wall up, and they don't talk to just anybody. So they have to have somebody that they feel that they can trust. And so again, I praise God for this.
And this one, this picture is amazing. This is 19. This is, your mom was on the phone in 1975. Note the large alien face in the mirror, and see the 3-foot tall alien standing beside her to the right. So I also enlarged this one, because this I think this picture is absolutely amazing. All right, let me go to the enlargement.
Is.
All right, there's the enlargement, guys. If you can't see it, boy, I'll tell you, I clearly saw it without even the enlargement.
Right, you can see it plain as day. I mean, it is right there, and isn't it amazing that, again, we see, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what I've said and what I've been saying all along through this interview is absolutely true, that all these things are very much connected, and you see it through these photographs. And you can even see the flash of the camera coming off the little gray alien's head that's standing beside her.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I let me see if I can get that. I can't. I took that off of there. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. There's the flash, yeah. That's crazy. But now, when she developed these pictures, did she see them, or it was you that caught this?
I don't know, because by the time I saw those photographs, my mother had since passed on. So I never knew those photos existed until my sister gave them to me in 2005, and then I started to go through them, and I found all of these disturbing images, and of course my mother knew, because she kept them. So she knew what they were. If she felt that they were, some kind of defects in the photos or whatever, she'd have thrown them away. But she knew what they were. And when I started going through, I thought, oh, dear God. I mean, there were so many of those images that had this bizarre phenomena in them.
One of the viewers are asking, Faith is asking, was there any abductions in the family?
I believe so, Norene. I really do. I can't prove it. I can tell you in my case, yes, but in others and with others, I would have to say yes.
Wait a minute.
Certainly my mother.
Were you abducted?
Yeah, I had an experience in 1997. Well, I've had many experiences. I've had many experiences with Men in Black as well.
You never told me.
Yeah, there's so much more that I haven't said.
Wait a minute. How could you not have ever told me that?
Well, there's a lot of things that I don't talk about because, the things that have happened were enough. If you go saying too much, then people think you're absolutely insane. But I assure you I'm not, and I've had these experiences, and I've had just about any and every experience that you can imagine in a supernatural, paranormal type of way, divine or demonic, unfortunately. In this situation, it was 1997. It was, I think it was July of 1997. And my wife and I had gone to bed. I want to say it was probably somewhere around, 2 a.m. And we had a little dog at the time, a little Yorkie, and she would bark. You'd never be able to sneak up, that's for sure. She would bark at every little noise. And she slept in a bed in the bedroom on my wife's side of the bed. And so we go to sleep. We try to go to sleep. I noticed that my wife was fast asleep. And it wasn't long after I was having problems falling asleep. And I heard this tremendous popping noise in the room. It sounded like it was right in the room right there with us. Just a tremendous pop. And so I jumped out of bed. I turned the lights on. My wife didn't wake up, and that was very odd because we're both light sleepers. The dog didn't stir either, and that was very odd. So I'm looking all around, turning all the lights on, looking around. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Turn the lights off and go back to bed, and now I can't sleep because I know something has happened, something is there. I close my eyes, they open right back up. This went on for, I don't know, probably almost a couple of hours. And then I recall looking down, so in front of the bed in the corner of the room, we had a TV on a TV stand. Back then it was a VCR. And so the VCR had a clock, and I think the clock said 4:01, I think it was, in the morning. So then I take my attention away from the clock, and I look again, and there is this very large being at the foot of the bed, at least 7 feet tall, glowing, greenish, yellowish in color, long skinny arms, long skinny fingers, big black eyes, sort of like a Manus type of face. And I recall the entity taking its left hand and wrapping. Now all of a sudden I'm out from under the covers, and this entity took its left hand and wrapped around my right ankle. And I will never forget the coldness of that hand. It was ice cold, wrapped around my ankle, and then I felt like I was paralyzed. And the entity turned me on my left side, and then I don't remember anything else from that point until being someplace else. And I was someplace else, sitting in this seat. It was almost like, reminded me of the back seat of a car. And there was the human male, he looked to be human anyway, to my left. And he looked like an MIB. And he was in a black suit, slick back, black hair, clean shaven. And he was, he didn't turn his body, he turned his head. So we're both seated side by side, he's to my left. And he turned his head to me and said, "Don't talk about this with anyone."
No way.
That's the last thing I remember. Then the next day I wake up, and at that time I was a power lifter. I was a very powerful individual. I could bench press 500 pounds. And I felt like I had a very strenuous workout. My body ached. I just, similar to really those experiences that I went through as a child, very fatigued, just felt horrible. And so that was one of several experiences that I had like that just boggled the mind, to say the least. And the next time I come back, I'll tell you about an experience involving implants that almost cost me my life, and God worked through me to where I coughed them up. And so that will be quite a story to tell you.
Well, do you want to tell it now, or is it too long?
Well, it's probably too long.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going long into the. It's 11:16 p.m.
Oh,
Eastern
sorry.
now, so
yeah, sorry, Bill.
Right.
It's only
But
8. It's only 8 for us.
I know. The next time I come back, I will talk about that. And these are things that I don't talk about in my regular interviews. So you're getting this information that is not common information.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, because, I mean, I've known you for years and you've never told me this stuff, so it's about time you told me.
It is time, and there's a lot more to tell, and I will share the implant story with you and some other stories that involve men in black helicopters, black vans, phones being tapped, surveillance, you name it, and we'll get into all of that. So I have been a person of interest for a long, long time, and it continues to this day with the helicopter surveillance. It's very interesting, and boy, oh boy, Norene, be prepared. There will be some very heavy stories that I will tell you, and again, I say this with 100% certainty. If not for God and His power and His protection and His love and His favor over me, I think I would have been dead a long time ago, and I praise God for keeping me safe.
Bill, I just made a note, and I will get back to you on a future show, because I am looking forward to that. I just want to say, oh, wait a minute. You have a Warrior t-shirt you wanted everybody to see. Hold on, let me go there. Here's a Warrior Mode t-shirt.
I got to get you one of them. I have to send you one of those. Yeah, it's and it's amazing, because people have been saying to me for years, you need your shirts, with Warrior Mode on there, and some of the sayings that I have, refuse to lose, and in it to win it, and things of that nature. So I started this little Warrior Mode t-shirt line, and people really love the shirts, and again, I'm thankful for that also. And if anybody's out there and you want to get a copy of the book or the shirt, just visit my website, and all the order information is there. And if there's anyone out there that is in need of spiritual help, if you need a spiritual deliverance exorcism, you feel that you're cursed, you feel that you're being affected by some of these things that we've discussed tonight, don't hesitate. I'm very busy, but never too busy to help somebody. And God always arranges in my schedule for me to be able to help people and have enough time to put people in and to help them. So if you're out there and you're suffering, don't hesitate to contact me. If I don't get back to you directly, my assistant Melinda will get back to you, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have your website and your books and whatever, but I can't go into that shot because the microphone isn't in there. This shot that we're doing now, my microphone is in there. I have to get my techie to put the microphone into my other shots. But there was just one thing I wanted to ask you before we go. From what I understand, and from others that I have talked to that have been abducted, after you're abducted, they get gifts, abilities that they never had before. Do you think that the success that you have with your exorcisms and dealing with the demons has anything to do with your abductions?
Well, I can tell you this, that even from childhood, I had life-threatening things happen to me in childhood, and where I called on God and Jesus. And I do believe that before I came in, not that I'm anything special, I don't claim to be, But I do believe that even before I came into this world, I think that God put this on me. So if he did, then yes, he put special gifts on me, because I have a knowing of things, and God will show me things, or sometimes I'll hear a voice in my head. There's something that comes from God that gives me information, especially when it's pertaining to some of these cases with demonically possessed or oppressed people. God will show me entities. He'll show me the entities that are there, where they are. He'll give me a knowing of why this is happening. And then I have to ask the client just to get confirmation. And so, yes, I do believe that, let's just say that I feel there has been a concerted effort on the part of the devil and his minions, those that operate in his satanic kingdom and in darkness, to try and get rid of me off of this planet. And God has saved me every time. I thank God and praise God for it, and I will continue to do what God has bestowed upon me and what he's put on me to do in helping other people, as long as he will have me to do it.
Amen to that. Everybody, you can go to Bill's website, billbean.com. His books are on, they're all on Amazon. Can they get them, the books too, from your website?
Yes, if you want a personally signed copy, and this is the alternate cover, which is a special edition, and you can get this if you go to my website and order from there. Then I will send that book with that cover out to you, and I'll personally sign it. So either way, yes, you can get them from BillJBean.com or from Amazon as well. So whichever is easiest for you, that'll be great. And Norene, again, I want to thank you. It's been so wonderful being on with you. God helped us to conquer the interference and the problems there. We give a shout out, and thanks to Robert as well. And I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in tonight and watching. God bless all of you, and I truly appreciate you being a part of this. So I'm very excited about coming back again to share some more things with you that I normally don't talk about.
Well, I was thrilled to have you on the show, and I can't wait, because I am going to schedule a show with you, because I can't wait to hear that information. And always a pleasure, Bill. Number 6, always a pleasure.
My pleasure, and much love, and God bless you and your family and everybody out there, and looking forward to the next time. And
thank you so much. Good night, Bill. Thank you.
Good night, Noreen.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, gosh. All right, I can't go to another screen because, let me move this, because my microphone's not in there. This is how this works. Sorry. So I have to stay here. Anyway, Robert fixed it for me, and it'll get back to normal. Thank God for my techie, Robert Trains. Hey, listen, I love Bill. I mean, I've known him for years, and we goes way back. And anytime, he's always welcome, and I just love him. So I will set up a show with the Men in Black, people of interest. Listen, next week, I got a show next week. I'm doing 2 shows this month, and I think 2 shows in July also. Next Thursday, Dave Spinks is coming on the show. Do you remember when Dave did the investigation with Live Sci-Fi at the Wells House? Well, 3 or 4 years ago, Dave wrote a book about his experiences at the Wells House. Well, there's a long story anyway. He could not publish it. It was all ready to go. It was at the publishers, and he couldn't put it out because he couldn't do it. Well, that house has since been sold, and we don't know who bought it, but somebody else bought that house. It left the hands of Live Sci-Fi. Then it went to this other fella that wouldn't allow anything to do with that house to be circulated. So it's sold now. So Dave has published. It will be out, I think, in a couple of weeks. He's taking pre-orders. I want to tell you, that house is the most horrible, demonic, disgusting house. I was asked to go to that house, and the person kept begging me, please, to come out. They wanted me to come and do some kind of convention at the disgusting house. And I talked to my husband. I said, hey, Jim, do you want to go to the Wells house with me? And he said, yeah, okay, if you want me to. So I was ready to go. Thank God. I wanted to go, but then something kept telling me, don't go. And thank God I didn't go. That house was bad luck. It hated females. Any female that went to that house, things happened to them. And Dave talks about this in his book. 4 years ago, when Dave was writing that book, we would stay on the phone till like 4 o'clock in the morning. And every time he would write a chapter, he would call me up. He goes, hey, I got another chapter. You want to hear it? And I said, Dave, this book has to come out. I've never in my life heard. What he read to me is the scariest stuff I've ever heard. I said, how did you stay in that house, Dave? How did you do it? In fact, one night he was left there. And it was so bad he went in his car. He couldn't stay inside the house. That's how bad that house is. Now, I know one of my friends on Facebook, he doesn't live that far from that house. And he's gone to see it. He saw it, well, I guess about a month ago. And he said the house looks like it's ready to fall down. And I don't know who bought the house. We can't find out who bought it. I don't have friends I have friends in real estate, but you could have to have somebody in Pennsylvania real estate. So I don't know why anybody would have bought that house. It's falling down, rotting away. Well, I don't get it, but anyway, Dave is going to come back and he's going to talk about the book, some of his experiences, because he wants you to buy it. And we may have John Zaffis on the show coming on, because John Zaffis had a horrible experience with Dave. And I don't know if you guys remember it. He was so upset that night. They were doing a ghost box, and it said things to John Zaffis that nobody else knew. So anyway, so next Thursday we're going to do that, okay? So in July, oh yeah, Weeping Willow is nasty as well. In July, I have Drew Beeson coming back. We're going to talk about, he is an expert. He has a YouTube channel. He has been studying the Zodiac serial killer for a long time. And he puts out videos of information on the Zodiac. So he's going to come back. He's going to come back on the show. We've done other great shows. He's coming back in July, and we're going to talk about the Zodiac killer, his profile and personality. I mean, nobody's ever done that. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then guess what? I got a hold of Anthony. Remember Anthony Sanchez, who invented the ghost apps? And we used to do those shows a long time ago with me and Dave and Anthony, how much fun we had doing the ghost apps. So Anthony's going to come back. I can't remember, but it'll be the second show in July. And he's going to do he's got more ghost apps that he's put out there. And we're going to talk about unsolved murders and disappearances. And hopefully we can find out about those disappearances in the national park. So I'm really excited about that. And he's excited about coming back on the show. So I got some good stuff coming up. Oh gosh, I forget. I don't have my calendar with me. I don't have my calendar with me. So anyway, that's what's coming up next. So everybody, thanks so much for being here tonight. I have to edit the first half hour out of this show. I'm just thank God for my techie. Just thank God for my techie. Let's see, Lisa Marie, thank you so much for the super chat money. I really appreciate it. And let's do some shout outs here, okay? Hey, and by the way, news on Royce. Royce has the COVID. He's very ill. He lost his internet. He no longer has internet. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to come back. I talked to him last week. He could barely talk. So he said, Norene, he said, when I'm able to talk, he's got some oxygen, an oxygen tank in his place, and why he's not in the hospital, I have no idea. He lives in a small town in Kansas, and he's at home, very ill. So when he's able to talk without coughing and gagging, he's going to call me back. But I really miss Royce to death, and I'm just hoping that someday he can get internet so he can come back. We had shows planned. He has some ghost pictures that he sent me that scares the hell out of me. You should see them. And we were going to do a show on those pictures. They're in his house. And it's awful. So anyway, stay tuned, okay? Say your prayers for Royce, please. So let's do some shout outs. Let me see. We had a nice crowd tonight, and thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to my mods, Renee McDowell and for Chippa Terry. Thank you so much for being here. Without them, we wouldn't have the great chat room that we have. I appreciate you so much. So let's do some shout outs. So Ellen Spellman, Renee McDowell, Rhode Island, David Cisneros. I know that name. How do I know that name? Mark Burchetti. Hi, Mark. Faith from my heart. Hello, Faith. Hello, David. The Haglin. Hi. Danny Rowland. Hello. Des Bunny. Hi, Des Bunny. They didn't change your mind, huh? Let's see. Anybody else? Karen Piotti. Hello. Anybody else? Karen Turner. Oh, really? Really? Okay. Well, you know what? My show isn't for everybody. Either you like it or you don't. Kirnoth. Hello. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else want to shout out? Hey guys, have a great weekend, okay? I know Harry, I don't know, Kilt? Anybody else want to shout? Lori Miller, hello. Abusa Power. Beat 3 Airspace, hello. Haven't seen you for a while. Anybody else? Again, Anita. Hey, Anita. I do too. My kitties. Anybody else? Let me see who else. Anybody else want to shout out? Anyway, I'm really excited about my upcoming shows. You know, there's been a lot of ghost box sessions being done on YouTube. Carol Hernandez. Yeah, you guys should all thank Bill Bean for coming on the show. I mean, he's just an absolute pleasure. BC Bounds, hello. So that's why I contacted Anthony. I want to get to the bottom of this. Richard Byrne. They're all getting messages from the other side. Supposedly they're contacting John Bonet. She said who killed her. There's information from the girls from the Delta murders. And I want to find out about the Ketty Resort murders. I want to find out about... So we need... I can't wait. I really can't wait for that show with with Anthony. It's been a long time, and I miss Anthony. David Rowling, Ghostface. Who else? Anybody else? Meta Kitty 33. Good night. Anybody else? Did I miss somebody? Everybody's going now, which is fine. Anybody else? I can't. Ooh. I think that's about it. Huh? Did I get everybody? I think so. Okay, everybody, good night. Oh, Nicole Johnson. Hi, honey. Hey, JD Bambera. Okay. Oh, Dust Bunny, I have so many experiences. I have so many. I don't know. I was going to do a show with Sidel DP. Hello. Yeah, I was going to do a show with Royce, and we were going to talk about, because he's been following me for years, and we were going to talk about my experiences. And believe me, I need to write everything down, because I have had so many things happen. Anyway, so again, it was wonderful to have Bill Bean. I love Bill Bean. I'm going to set up all the shows I've done with him. I'm telling you, if you can go back onto my Facebook page, it's kind of hard because the images I have aren't with them. This one I have with Bill, but I got to put that playlist together with Bill Bean, because the shows I've aired with him are amazing. He is an amazing guest. So anyway, actually, all my guests are amazing, and I've been blessed to have so many great guests. I've been so lucky. Okay, guys. Oh, hey, Vanessa Hogel's coming back. She wants to do a show on one of her books, and it's on psychics and empaths and remote viewers. She wrote a book on all that, so she wants to come back. She wants to come, and that's in August. And let's see, I'm going to be gone I'm going to go on vacation. We're going to Las Vegas. Got my tickets. We're going to Vegas in August, but I do have a show with her in August before we go. I'm going to do a show on the Black Dahlia with Angela Thomas, the remote viewer. I like doing shows with her as well. Okay, I guess that's about it, guys. I'm going to go now, so you have a great weekend. And again, thank you so much. I love you. Group hug. Thanks so much for being here. Again, thanks to our mods, Renee and Chipateri. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to end this now, and hopefully we won't have any problems next show. And thank God I have a techie. So good night, everybody. Thanks so much. Good night. Love you guys. Thank you. All right, I'm going to end this.